Hello and welcome to my craft channel Susie Makes. I'm taking you through a series of videos showing you the basics of a variety of crafts. At the moment I'm working on crochet with a view to completing your first granny square. As you can see, we've completed 3 rows and we're on the final row, this white row here today. It doesn't have to be the final row. In fact, I've kept on going until I've made one the size of a bed cover in the past in lovely Christmassy colours. But for the tutorial, this is the last one. To complete the granny square, there will be further tutorials showing you how you can join them as well. So for our last round, I'm going to do something very slightly different. So far I have shown you the simplest way of joining colours, which is just to hold the yarn against the hook and carry on in the next colour that you want. However, it does sometimes leave you with a slightly shorter looking treble there. So I'm going to show you a slightly different way now that you might be a bit used to holding the hook and yarn. There's no conventional way of doing any of these. It's whatever suits you best. You may have already noticed that I don't crochet in the conventional way with the way I hold the hook and the yarn, but I get the same result, and that's all that matters. So you do whatever is comfortable for you. So to start off this round, the difference is I've always started with my previous loop on the hook. I'm going to bind that off, so I'm going to take the tail and pull it through that loop and then pull it snugly. So it has left a little bit of an ugly looking knot there. However, when we do our next colour, we'll do the slip knot onto our hook as shown in the first video, and we put our hook with the slip knot on it. You put the hook through your first corner, holding that pink tail out the way and the white tail out the way. Put your yarn over, pull your hook through, and then take the loop at the back over the one at the front, and there. That will look a much neater join and cover up the little knotty looking bit underneath as well. So now remember, with every row we've started, I'm going to start in this corner here, as we have with every row. We start off with the pretend treble, which is 3 chains, which gives you the height you need to get you from this pink row you've just completed up to the white row, so that you can work your way around back to the beginning again. So our pretend treble, if you remember, is 3 chains. So 1, 2, 3, and there you have your 3 chains for your first treble. So to complete the first treble cluster, we do 2 more. So yarn over hook, hook back into the corner, yarn over hook again, and pull your crochet hook through. You've got your 3 stitches on your hook. Yarn over your hook and pull your hook through the first 2 stitches. Yarn over hook and pull it through the second 2 stitches, and there you are, back to the beginning. So you have your pretend treble there, which was your first chain 3, and the treble you've just worked. So you've got 2 there. And notice how they sit nicely together at the bottom, so it is a much neater way of joining on your next colour. So 1 more treble to complete this cluster, so yarn over the hook into the corner. I do just catch my tail down there as I go. Yarn over the hook, pull through to 3 stitches. Yarn over the hook, pull through the first 2. Yarn round the hook again and pull through the last 2. So you're back to the beginning with 1 loop on your hook, and you have completed your first treble cluster in the final row of your granny square. Now remember, to get from here, which is what we've just done, to here, we need to make this little gap so that we've got the gaps are for our stitches to go in with every round that we crochet. So in order to make this gap, it's 1 chain, and then we're on to this treble cluster in the first gap of the pink row below. So we do 3 trebles, so yarn round the hook. It looks like you've got 2 stitches. Put it into the gap next to the, I don't catch my tail any further on there because it could look a bit unsightly. I'll show you what to do with that later. So I've got my yarn around the hook, put the hook into the first gap after the corner, yarn over the hook and pull through, and there you have your 3 stitches. Yarn over the hook, pull through the first 2, yarn over the hook, pull through the second 2. And there you have your first treble in your first gap after the corner. So you've done the first one here. So do 2 more, yarn over the hook, and off we go. 1, 2. There, so now we've done this one here, and we have another one to do here before we reach the next corner. But don't forget to make the gap between it. It not only gives you the gap you need to work future trebles into, it also gives you the little bridge you need to go from here to here. Otherwise it would pull and look a little bit unsightly. So those little chain ones in between are important. So to make that gap, we chain 1, and we go into the next gap along and do 3 trebles. 1, 2, 3. So there we are again. So now you've got your first treble cluster in the corner, then your next treble cluster in the gap, second treble cluster in the gap, and now we're at this corner here, the second corner. So to make each corner, we need the gap in between the one we've just made and the corner, so we chain 1, and then we make another 3 trebles into that corner. 1, 2, 3. So there you have your first treble cluster in your next corner, and to make the corner, remember we chain 2. So 1, 2. Now we make the second treble cluster for this corner. 1, 2, 3. And there you have the first side completed. I'm just going to pull up some more yarn. And there you have your first side completed with your first complete corner there as well. So now I'm going to whiz round the rest of it, as we do exactly the same way round. So we're going to do a treble cluster in this gap next, then another one in this gap, and then we're going to come to this corner, then repeat back to the beginning. I'll show you what to do then. So I'm just going to carry on. Maybe with a little bit of nattering in between. Now, I have done the videos for completing a granny square in bite-sized chunks, so there's going to be about 8 videos altogether, right from your starting loop to how to do a crochet chain, how to turn that chain into a ring, how to do a treble crochet, which is the main stitch needed for a granny square, how to sew in your tail ends, and how to join, change colour and join at the beginning of each row. And there will be another one following, how to join your granny squares. So if you want to make a cushion, a bag, a blanket, whatever you want, I'll be showing you how to join your granny squares. Sorry, my microphone just slipped a bit there, but I hope it's okay now. And as I said before, there's all sorts of ways of doing everything in crochet, like sewing in tail ends. There's more than one way. I'll show you another way eventually. Joining different colours, holding your yarn, holding your hook. It's really what you feel most comfortable with, and also there's many different ways as well, because I found that the way I started wasn't necessarily, as I grew more confident and more able, wasn't necessarily the neatest, so I wanted to improve the neatness of my work. So I continually looked at what other people did, and also played with it and found my own way to produce granny squares that I was happy with from beginning to end. Now this granny square, as I've said in previous videos, is going to turn out slightly looser in look than I would normally like, because I'm trying to use a bigger hook so that it comes across a little clearer on the video. Now, not much longer now. Now all terms in my videos are UK terms. There are American terms out there as well, but I will be compiling a list of conversion charts for stitches and hooks, which I will put in the description of each video for your convenience. Just takes a while getting round to it all. One of the next crafts that I will be doing will be cross stitch. It's another thing that I really enjoy, and really looking forward to bringing that on video to you if you have that sort of interest as well. Right, we're on the final stretch. Very therapeutic crocheting. And I do find I'm one of these people that just can't sit still and do nothing. My hands have to be busy doing something, so this is a lovely craft to do while sat in your favourite chair, maybe watching TV or listening to the radio. And you can really get in the zone. There are also other ways that you can create with a treble cluster other than a square. For instance, granny stripes, where you work backwards and forwards, row upon row, and I love that. I have to say, I think that's actually my favourite and I'll show you that another time as well. So here we are, back to the beginning. Now, and as you can see, because I've used a bigger hook, it's turned out much bigger. That's okay. Here I am, back to the beginning. I've just completed the last treble cluster in the first corner where we started, and I did a chain, instead of a chain 2 for this corner, I did a chain 1. Now to end this corner, as with all things in crochet, there are several ways of ending, as well as everything else. But now I'm not putting another row here, so I won't end with a double crochet. Double crochet, as I said in a previous video, was to give you a little platform for your next treble cluster to sit on when you start your next row. I'm not going to start a next row, so I just want to finish it. So instead of a double crochet, I will be doing a slip stitch to end this granny square. And the slip stitch is done in exactly the same place as the double crochet was in previous rounds, in the third chain from your very first chain 3. Remember your pretend treble that you started with. So there's 1, 2, 3. So your slip stitch, your hook, is going to go under that third chain, and as I showed you previously, under that chain is a single strand of yarn. Your hook will sit in between. So you take your crochet hook, and wiggle it underneath that third chain there. Yarn over your hook, pull through, and then take your back stitch over your front stitch and off the hook, and there you have slip stitched your final stitch of your granny square. Now you would cut the yarn with leaving a little tail, take it through the loop and pull. Now I've got some tails to sort out there to sew in, but there you have. Sometimes they need wiggling around a bit to sit a little bit more snugly together. There you have your completed granny square. Well done you. I'm going to sew in my tails. I will not sew in the very last tail, because that'll be, I'll show you what to do with that if when I show you on future videos the different ways there are of joining your granny squares together. But I will just sew in my tails. I've got another couple of tails floating around here, so I think I'll show you a different way to how I've shown you in previous videos. So before we've turned our work over, threaded our tail onto our darning needle. Must be a blunt end, otherwise you'll tear the yarn. And we've gone through underneath the stitches, that way, and then that way zigzag, and then once again that way. And we sort of then pull it a bit so that it's not pulled tight and less chance of it unraveling in the future, and then we snipped it. There's usually more than one way, so I'll show you another way now. Now I'm taking my needle underneath just the front loop of the top of the pink row there. So one, and then down the other way under the next loop that sits next to it, and then up again through the next one, This I find a neater way with sewing in your tails. Then underneath the 3 white stitches, I say underneath, you notice it isn't showing on the other side because these stitches are made up of double sides. You've got a front side and a back side, and there you have your needle going through the middle of them. You pull it through, and now you could finish it there, but for a little bit of extra security you could just do one more. So 1, 2, 3, and take your needle through the next 3 trebles. And pull. Now you don't, if you pull it tight, when you cut it, and I was to cut it there, and you're going to sort of judge it about a bit to get the shape you're satisfied with, then it would have probably unravelled to about here and would look a bit unsightly. So I give it a little pull before I cut the tail, just to loosen it up, and then cut the tail close to your work. And there, a much neater way of finishing off your tails. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the white where I first started this last row. The thing with the white is you haven't got these stitches to work on because it's the final row. So what I do is I miss the first stitch and take the needle underneath all of those trebles in that corner. See, it doesn't show the other side. Pull through. Now I usually find that that is enough for that one, as it's gone through 6 stitches altogether. Give it a little tug to make sure you lessen the chances of it unravelling. I once bought a granny square cushion cover from a lovely lady in a craft show that I attended last year. No, it was the year before actually. Most of last year I was out of action because I broke my leg, being the clumsy person I am. And I absolutely love this cushion cover, but slowly, bit by bit, all the little ends started poking through where they hadn't quite been sewn in properly. So I am forever going through and sewing those back in again. A little bit frustrating, but I still love the cushion. Right, and there you have a completed granny square. Well done you. Give yourself a pat on the back. Now, I hope to see you in future videos. I will be continuing with crochet. I will be doing double crochet and showing you how that can link into that is the one of the only stitches you need in making amigurumi toys you may have heard of. If you haven't, watch this space. I'll be showing you. Thank you for joining.